up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions potentially trading down in this year's draft because they could be looking at a monster return if they're willing to do it. Could and if. See, I wanted to make those like the main words because they're important. So let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
At the end of the day, if none of the teams sitting behind us are willing to trade up and they're just like, you know what? No, we don't need to trade up. We don't want to give up picks to do it. Then there's no trade back value there. And it is what it is. And that's possible. You know, you always say, hey, well, we'll just move back. It's always possible that no one's willing to move up or they're not willing to give up really anything. And then you're just like, well, I guess we're not moving back, and the compensation is not good enough. We might as well just take someone here because there are still top receivers that you might want to take, a top linebacker that you might want to take, that you might want to not miss out on. So if you're moving all the way back to, let's say, 21, you're seeing a spot where, hold up, we need to get at least a good enough return here. So someone has to be willing to move up. I mean, that's the thing. Out of all these teams that sit behind basically Carolina, someone has to be very, very interested in moving up. That's kind of the hope, and we're kind of thinking that's going to be the case. If it's not, well, then it doesn't really matter. But if someone is, if just one team is behind Carolina, and maybe they're paranoid about somebody else, then all of a sudden you got something going. Welcome everybody to our video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're talking about potentially trading back from the number 7 pick in this year's draft for the Lions because, man, could they get a monster return? I mean, they could get a lot if you're going by the trade value chart. And, you know, the trade value chart isn't always perfect. Sometimes you give up more, sometimes you give up less. It depends on really how much do you really want to move up. But if you go by the trade value chart, which we're going to in today's video, the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, because, you know, it puts, I guess a little perspective on how value the number 7 pick actually is. The Lions could be looking at a monster return because the Lions made this trade with Jared Goff, and they only have 6 picks in this year's draft, but they have 2 firsts the next year and 2 firsts the year after that. They do have an extra 3rd-round pick, which puts them, like I said, at 6 picks this year. Because they made the Jared Goff trade, it gives them flexibility. If the Lions want to take a quarterback, they can do it. If they don't want to and they don't like a quarterback there, they don't have to take a quarterback. So if the Lions are sitting at 7 and they don't really want a quarterback or they don't love the guys that are available, which is kind of the boat I'm personally in, but that's going to be in my draft thing that I'm working on off to the side. I think you guys are going to like it. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to tease it because I think it's really cool. But anyways, well, that's for another day. Just simply sitting at 7. Let's just say hypothetically the Lions are sitting there and they're like, you know what? We don't love a quarterback at 7. We don't really need to take one here. If you're willing to risk losing a Devontae Smith or a Micah Parsons, I mean, it depends on who's available, at the time. Your pick becomes very valuable to a lot of other teams. Now, that could be for a weapon, but most likely for a quarterback. Well, the Lions are sitting in a great spot. You know why? Because that team at number 8 in Carolina, they need a quarterback. Yeah, it's because Carolina has tipped their hand that they want a quarterback. How have they tipped their hand? Well, I think all of us kind of knew it, but they tipped their hand by making that gigantic offer for Matthew Stafford, and it gets leaked. Once that offer gets leaked, everybody knows, oh, they want a quarterback. They want a quarterback. Now, we don't know if they won't win in the draft, and maybe them showing how much they want Matthew means they don't really want one in the draft. They don't love one at 8. Maybe that's the case. But all we do know is that they want a quarterback, and they know that Teddy Bridgewater is in their future, which I guess a lot of us know. But with that in mind, with a lot of people believing that Carolina is going to take a quarterback, that if Trey Lance falls to 8, they're going to take a quarterback. And if the Lions don't want to take one at number 7, which they could, I'm not saying they can't, but if they don't want to, the Lions could be looking at a nice trade back because now everybody is looking to jump in front of Carolina. So even if they don't believe the Lions want to take a quarterback, they may be wanting to jump in front of Carolina. Because here's kind of how it's set up. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks right now. You have Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. Those are looked at like the top 4. Even though I think it's fair to throw some other guys in there. I think it's fair. There is then the Mac Jones and the Kyle Trask. If you want to get into that top 4, which I hope those other teams are looking at it like a top 4, if they want to get into that, well, then they may definitely have to move up to number 7 because you got to get in front of Carolina. So if you want Trey Lance, you might have to you might have to jump up. Now, what's great about where we sit is that there's a potential that 3 quarterbacks are off the board, which puts pressure on those teams that, hey, if you want to get Trey Lance, you got to move up to do it because you're going to miss out because Carolina probably will take him. However, what's great about our spot is that let's say that 3 quarterbacks don't go before we get on the board. Let's say that 3 quarterbacks aren't off the board. Let's say that Zach Wilson is still alive, is still there. Let's say that Justin Fields is still there. Trevor Lawrence won't be there, but let's say one of those 2 are still there. Now the 7th pick becomes even more valuable. Adds more value in the sense that more teams could be interested. Because let's say whoever it is, you could take whoever you want. We know the top 4, like our top 4 is who everybody's saying the top 4, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm forgetting one. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson. I don't completely agree with that, but we are hoping that's what people are thinking the top 4 is. 2 going in the top 6 would mean that more teams could be interested in, because if one comes out of that, then that means there's a chance that there's teams in the back saying, you know what, we don't want that guy anyway, so we're not going to trade up. There's less interest there. More teams potentially to the party where they're thinking, okay, we got to move up because we actually like this guy. We didn't think this guy would fall out, but he's there. Gives more options. Now, where it hurts your value a little bit is that there are 2 quarterbacks. So if there are teams that are back there thinking, hey, we'll take that guy or this guy, because 2 quarterbacks out of the top 4 fell, so we'll take either one. We don't need to move up all the way to number 7 because, Carolina can take this one, but we're fine with the other. Maybe that's a team that's sitting at 12. Maybe that's San Francisco. Now, the hope then is that a team like Denver worries those teams, because a team like Denver who sits at 9, maybe they're a dark horse to take somebody because the Drew Lock situation. Maybe a Dallas who sits at 10 is a dark horse to take someone. Kind of the hope is that those teams that are sitting directly behind us put enough pressure for teams to move up. Now, if we can somehow sell the fact that we're interested in a quarterback, this could be even more valuable. Plus, which is very difficult to do, because if you're willing to trade back, you just have to ask for a lie. If you're like, oh yeah, we'll take this much, and they're like, oh, well, man, how interested are you really in the quarterback there? You really got to sell yourself, which is possible. I don't know how good of an actor Brad Holmes is, but he may be good at it. Hopefully he is. But if you can sell yourself, now you can get even more. Plus, Carolina may have to move up. If you can sell it so well, which is going to be difficult to do, to Carolina might have to move up. You know why? Because they're sitting there at 8 thinking, dang, we might not get a quarterback because Lions might take him. Guys, this is a great trade back spot if you want to. If you don't want to, if you're one of the people that, hey, I want to take quarterback 7 because I love this guy, hey, you do you, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Let's put in perspective how valued this spot could be. Now again, this isn't 100% accurate, but let's use the trade value chart, the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, because it's kind of scary how valuable the 7th pick could actually be if it went by this, if this is how it worked out. And if you use the PFN mock draft simulator, it usually does work out like this. Say you're sitting there at number 7, that pick is worth 1,500 points according to the Jimmy Johnson value chart. Okay, 1,500 sounds good, right? Well, let's put that in perspective for a second. If you trade it back with Indianapolis, who is sitting at number 21. If you trade it back with Indy, if they wanted to move up because they wanted a quarterback 2, Phillip just retired. If you trade it back with Indianapolis all the way to number 21, by the value chart, to make it equal, they would have to give up every single pick in this year's draft. Of their 2020 picks, they'd have to give up every single pick, and it would not even equal 1,500 points. What? No, I'm not even kidding, because Indianapolis, 21st pick according to the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, is only worth 800 points. 54th pick is only worth 360 points. You put those together, that's 1,160, right? Not bad. But look how big of a drop-off. Their 84th pick is worth 170 points. Their 117th pick is worth 60 points. Their 148th pick is worth 31 points. Every pick in 2020 for them would not equal 1,500 points. Now, look, I don't think there's any way in heck a team would give up every single pick in a year to move up that high. But that just shows you how much value there is between those 14 picks that they're moving. They're not going to give up every pick in this year's draft. But it puts in perspective how valuable that pick is. So then you start talking about future picks. And the Lions, I almost can guarantee if they're willing to trade back from 7, they're going to be interested in future picks. Why? Well, because they've already shown you they are. They took 1 third-round pick for Matthew Stafford, but they also got 2 first-round picks for the future. They're willing to take future picks, I believe it, because they're looking at this. They've already told us from where are we 2 years from now. So if someone's willing to give them 2022 picks, they'll take those. And Lions are sitting in a power position where, because of how the quarterbacks fall, look, if 5 quarterbacks go off, then I think less value comes to it. But so hopefully that's not the case. But if 4 go off, like Atlanta takes 1, then you have a lot of value there, and that just shows you how valuable it is. So let's use the trade value chart for a second, because look, they're not going to give up every pick. So Indianapolis would have to probably throw in future picks, and they don't have to equal that. It's just this, it's just a set number. They could throw in a player. It's just a value. It just to try to put it in perspective, and it does show how valuable it is. Now, San Francisco, they sit at number 12. I think there's a lot of teams that could be interested. I actually made a list of, I think, teams that could potentially be interested. The 4 obvious ones for me are San Francisco, New England, Washington, and Colts. San Francisco at 12, New England at 15, Washington at 19, Indianapolis at 21. But there's some dark horses. Denver, what are they going to do with Drew Lock? Dallas, what happens with Dak Prescott? They sit at 10. Number 20, Chicago. Trading within division doesn't happen a lot, but they need a quarterback. And 24, Pittsburgh. What about Ben Roethlisberger? Those are some dark horses, but the main ones are the 4 that I mentioned first. So let's take a look at the 4 main teams. San Francisco, their pick is worth 1,200 points. That's a lot. And if they threw in 43, which is their second-round pick, that's worth 470 points, that would put you over value, but that'd be pretty close. They don't even have a third-round pick. They only have a fourth-round pick, and that's only worth 80 points. Okay, so that's not a lot. So they may have to go, okay, hey, we'll give you number 12, we'll give you second. If the Lions can move back 5 spots, literally just 5 spots, and get a second-round pick on top of that, which I'm not saying they could, but if they could, that's a nice value. You're moving back 5 spots. You didn't need to take a quarterback. So you're looking at potentially, depending on how the board falls, one of the top linebackers, Owusu Koromora, Zaven Collins. Heck, Micah Parsons could even be available if you want to go linebacker first. Of course, all the top running backs will be there. Wide receivers, yeah, Devontae's probably gone. Maybe Jalen Waddle squeaked through. Maybe somehow. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. Kyle Pitts might still be available if you want to go that route. I don't think they do. You could take a top cornerback might still be there, depending on what Dallas does. You know, Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley, one of those guys could still be there if you wanted to go that route. Gives you a lot of options, right? Tons of options. You just might be missing out on the top receivers. The only thing that trading back from 7 does is you're probably missing out on a quarterback because that's why they're trading up. Or a team could trade up for a weapon, which is possible. That puts in play a lot of teams because they may be jumping up for a weapon. Not as likely, trade up and give up tons for a receiver, but it's possible. You never know. I mean, I think it was the Falcons said that when they trade up to go get Julio. But, it's not as likely, but it's possible. It's always there. And if a team wants Micah or something like that. But just sticking in the quarterback realm, it's just that's where all the value comes from. Now, the only thing that trading back 7 does, you're probably missing out on a quarterback if you wanted one that high, but unless you don't really love them there, then you're fine. Or you're missing out on a top receiver. So you might be missing out on Devontae, potentially Jamar if you fell. Jalen Waddle, Devontae might not fall either. Jalen Waddle, maybe. So you might be missing out on a top receiver. But if you're willing to go past that and you don't really want to take one of the top anyways, you're looking at a great spot for trading back. Number 15 with New England. Their pick is worth 1,050 points. All right, so here's how that would work. If they threw in their 46th pick, which is worth 440 points, that would equal 490 in total, which is about the exact same. So 15 and 46 is about the exact value. So you could move back 8 spots to 15, which again, some of those players I already mentioned would still be available, and you could have, I don't know, a second-round pick as well to go this year. But again, this is where future picks come into play because they usually have a little bit less value, but not much. But they usually have a little bit less value because people think about the now, not everybody's always worried about the future, right? Not everybody's always worried about, hey, what are my 2022 picks looking like? So then you can, and because the Lions are willing to take those, they could get a lot of those in return. Think about that. What if the Lions could land, let's say they got New England's 15th pick. And let's just say hypothetically New England is a first-round pick next year. I'm pretty sure they do. What if they gave you that? You could be looking at 3 first-round picks next year. Any team could do that. You could be looking at 3 first-round picks next year. Look at a team like Washington at number 19. Their value at 19 is only 875 points. I've seen a lot of people mocking this because they don't have a quarterback. They have Heineke, they have Haskins, they have Alex Smith. They don't know who their quarterback is there. Maybe it's Heineke, maybe it's not. But if they want to go to quarterback, a team that made the playoffs with really not the best quarterback play. However, Heineke did play well in the playoffs. I will give him that 100%. They're looking at 875 for their pick. Their 51st pick in the second round is only worth 390 points, which puts you at 1265, which means that they would also have to throw in potentially their third round pick, which gives you at 485, which is still not enough value. You can really have first, second, and third. I don't think they're going to give that up. Again, it's just a value chart, but again, that's just showing you how valuable that pick actually is. The Lions are sitting in a power position right here, but they sell it. The better they sell it, the more they can get in return. And because future picks are something they're willing to accept, I believe, because they're willing to do that, they could get even more. If they're not set on we have to have it this year, they could be looking at even more picks because teams will be willing to give up future picks to save their picks this year, especially a team that thinks like maybe Washington, we get a quarterback, we're going places, we just got to get up and get one. Teams like that would be more willing to give up future picks, maybe a lot of future picks, because they're thinking, okay, let's keep our picks this year, let's keep our second round pick or whatever, and then we'll give you a third, but we'll keep our second round pick, that way you can use that for whatever other hole we need to fill. So you can see, maybe it's another weapon. So you can see how valuable this pick is for the Lions. Sitting at 7 is a great spot. Trading back is a legitimate option. If you're one of the people that want to quarterback there, it's fine. If you don't want to move back, I get it. Right? Maybe the Lions sitting there down to the quarterback. Maybe they're sitting there and they want Devontae. Maybe they want Jamar if he fell. Maybe they want Micah. And I get it. I'm just saying if there was a trade back idea and they wanted to move back, it's extremely valuable. It loses values if 5 quarterbacks go in the top 6. I don't see that happening. If that happens, now it loses some value because now the best quarterback available in a lot of people's mind is Mac Jones or Trask. And how many teams are willing to move up that high? Maybe not. Very good spot because Carolina puts them in a good spot. If Carolina wasn't right behind them, it might be a worse spot. But because Carolina really seems to want a quarterback and they might take one at 8, everybody, it doesn't even have to worry about what the Lions want. It's not a situation where, Lions, we don't think we'll take one. It's more, hey, we got to get in front of Carolina. So that's the big difference. Last year, they knew we weren't taking a quarterback, so we weren't able to move back. Apparently, we got no offers. But since Carolina sits at 8, it gives us more leverage. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.